All right, what's going on? It's Bobby Skinner, Talkin Giants, and doing a full New York Giants pre-free agency mock draft, starting with the 6th overall pick. Really excited to do this one. I think there's a lot of talent in this draft, and I think there's certain position groups that the Giants need, like wide receiver and offensive line, that have a lot of volume of good players. So I think there's going to be some good players in the second round. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Draft month is coming, it's coming right up. So we'll be getting into our positional previews, obviously all that. We'll have film breakdowns of every single player that the Giants pick. And by the way, the guy I think they're going to pick at 6, already a film breakdown on the channel. So go check that out. A little spoiler for who you're about to hear for the first pick. So some rules for mock drafts. I don't do trades. They're just impossible to predict, so I don't even entertain the idea of doing them in mock drafts. Some draft philosophies. I'm basically become just a best player available guy, right? You look back at drafts and you look at which of these players were good, not necessarily what needs were met. Right now, there's obviously nuance to it, right? If Evan Neal worked out really well, I wouldn't be entertaining tackle at all, because those guys aren't going to be replaced. They're young, would be here for a long time. But Evan Neal didn't work out, at least to this point, so it is going to be entertained for the Giants. So let's get into it. We're starting off with round 1, pick 6. So round 1, pick 6, the top 5 win is this. The top 3 picks went quarterback, obviously. The Cardinals went Marvin Harrison Jr., and then the Chargers went Joe Alt. And this was an easy pick for me, even though I love some of the second round wide receiver talent that, I probably won't be able to take when I make this pick. But I'm going LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers, 6'1", 188 pounds. This guy truly does it all, right? Like, he led college football in yards per game. Only Rome Odunze had more total yards, but he had 2 more games. And the way he did it was beautiful because he attacks every level of the field. He had the second most 20-plus yard catches while also being top 10 in YAC. And I actually think yards were left on the field in the intermediate game by QB play, and then you also factor in that there was another first-round wide receiver on the field with Brian Thomas Jr. His speed and acceleration to make big plays is obviously what sets everything up, right? That's the prerequisite for being a great wide receiver for the most part, is just that speed and ability to control that speed and tempo yourself. Like, the ability to tempo just sets up everything because it just plays mind games with corners and safeties because you don't know how he's going to attack, where he's going to attack, and he can run the full route tree, right? Like, the ability to tempo sets him up for the dig routes, the out routes, the posts, because he's able to use that throttle control to set you up and then go, right? His usage of head fakes, foot jabs, just plays games with cornerbacks' heads. And then even the simple stuff like a hitch route, right? You may not think of a hitch or a curl route as some great route, but if you can run it really well, it's really effective, especially on third downs. And also it can, create yak if they're playing way off. A quick way to get the ball into your playmaker's hands if they're attacking, if they're protecting deep. He can stop on a dime, and then you have the yak ability that is just amazing. Like, great contact balance, ability to run through guys, around guys, make guys miss. There was a play, I believe, versus Mississippi State where they're playing off coverage. He runs a little 8-yard hitch, and he takes that to the house. And there's a bunch of other plays where he's doing that. And so to be top 10 in YAC, second most 20-plus yard plays, he attacks every single part of the field. And I think this is a slam dunk pick. I think no matter who the quarterback is, this guy's going to be producing. It can really, legitimately add points to an offense that needs points added to it. So round 1, pick 6, I went Malik Nabers, wide receiver out of LSU. And then round 2, pick 39, kicking off the second round. These are the types of picks that, decide your future. Do you hit on these guys? Do these guys become really good players, Pro Bowl, all-pro players? And I get one who I love, and that is Duke offensive lineman Graham Barton. He played tackle at Duke, but he'll move inside in the NFL. He has shorter arms. And there's a lot of offensive line talent in this draft, right? You have Olu, Alt, Fuaga, Guyton, and Mims. Like, those are our 5 offensive tackles who are projected to go in the first round. And then you think of the interior guys like Jackson Powers Johnson of Oregon, Troy Fautanu out of Washington, who will play on the inside, which I think is going to leave a good offensive lineman on the board at pick 39 when you consider all the QBs that are going to be taken, all the wide receivers, and then obviously every other position is going to have their share of guys. he's a good athlete with like functional strength that shows up, and it allows him to operate well on a down to down basis, right? And I have a film breakdown on him at the JM Football channel if you want to check it out. He just understands the game, right? Like he gets to his landmarks quickly. He IDs and he counters or stunts that they're running at him really well. Doesn't make any mistakes, and then just plays with good balance while having good knee bend and pad level, which I think sets stuff up for him, And then as far as like a pass protector, right? He gets to his landmarks. He's got strong hands with a quick strike, right? And they land correctly almost every single time, and it just shut down rushers who are working any type of momentum through him. And then in the run game, like his hips sink and explode through run blocks, right? Which a lot of guys do that. They'll get that nice initial punch and they'll get some movement. But what a lot of guys lack to do is to keep your feet moving through that block, right? They'll get these good first pop, and then the guy ends up sliding off, or you don't get the right placement on him and he's making a tackle on your running back 3 yards down the field. He keeps his feet moving through the block. So not only gets like that nice good first punch, but keeps his feet moving through the block, which allows him to sustain really well. So, you pair that with his strength, and that becomes like a really nice piece for a Giants offensive line whose, top 2 guards are currently Josh Azudu and Marcus McKeithen once Lewinsky is cut. Obviously, we think they'll address some of that in free agency, but you got to address it through the draft too. So, Giants have invested a lot on the offensive line. They've got to get returns on that. But right now you have Andrew Thomas, John Michael Schmitz. Those are the only pieces that you kind of have faith in. Evan Neal's a question mark. Bring in Graham Barton, let him start at guard, and let him grow and become a good player for the Giants. So I'm going Graham Barton with my first second-round pick. All right, round 2, pick 47, second-round pick. This comes over from the Seattle Seahawks in the Leonard Williams trade. I'm getting a best player available pick, and it's a great fit for the New York Giants. I'm going Miami safety Cam Kinchens. I love this guy. We looked at him in our way too early draft preview last summer and fell in love. You're going to have money invested in Xavier McKinney, like a lot of money in the safety position, at least hopefully. So you can pair Xavier with a good player on a rookie contract in Cam Kinchens. And, what I like about Cam Kinchens is he's not out there just playing his area and calling it a day. He's a playmaker, right? Like his eyes are on the QB looking to make a play. I don't think he's this reckless safety, but he does have his fair share of mistakes. But much more often than not, he's doing a good job recognizing route combination and progression and going where he's needed to go. And he's got the range and the athleticism to play, whether it's single high, center field safety. He has the range to go side to side. If he's playing from split safety, he also if there's a crosser underneath, but they got the deep post or whatever, he will be patient, right? And he's got like the speed to be patient, right? Where, hey, I don't need to bail right away. I can run with this deep post. And he does that pretty often, and it allows him to make plays. I mean, he's had 11 interceptions in the last 2 seasons, so an interception every other game for him. And he just shows great ball skills. And he could have had more too, right? There's a couple other plays that maybe have slipped through his hand. Texas A&M, a deep post, makes a good play on it, doesn't catch it. Clemson in man coverage, almost has an interception. Doesn't have a ton of man coverage experience, but he does well to undercut from off coverage. I think he gives up a little too much cushion sometimes because he wants to undercut. I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive. We watched him down at the Senior Bowl, and that was basically the tail of the tape in one-on-one drills. It's like, hey, when guys did little quick routes, he wasn't able to get close to them. When they, had the stem was at 8 to 12 yards, he was undercutting and making plays on the ball. So I think this guy fits in any type of role. Like any triggers up to play in the run game, likes to hit. Like he's a perfect fit to go with Xavier McKinney, have those 2 versatile playmaking safeties and this new Shane Bowen defense. Finishing off day 2 with round 3, pick 70. And this is a guy I fell in love with on accident, right before I ever actually did a full film evaluation. And that's UConn guard Christian Haynes. I got Graham Barton in the second round. Now let's really work to shore up this offensive line with a guy I view as a second-round talent in Christian Haynes. I was watching Peyton Wilson, the NC State linebacker, a guy that I really like, and I saw him get worked a couple times on film. And I'm like, who is this? This is guard from UConn. I'm like, isn't there a guard from UConn going to the Senior Bowl? Christian Haynes. Had my eyes on him in the Senior Bowl, and I fell in full bloom love. I thought he was the best had the best week for an offensive lineman down there, in my opinion. He's a tough son of a bitch, too. Like, he's always looking to finish the play and put guys in the dirt. he's strong as hell. That's what it is with him. He's strong as hell, and it shows up. He controls blocks and pass protection with his hand, like, the powerful punch and then that hand grip. Just is able to lock on to defenders. His lateral mobility isn't the best, so he needs to be making first contact, and he can also give up ground when a guy's able to, get off the ball and fire to his chest. But he doesn't recover laterally very well. But if a guy's like working power on him, his ability to rework his hands and then re-anchor is really awesome, right? Like, even if he does give that first initial ground. I watched him versus NC State this past year, and then I went and watched him versus Michigan in 2022, so a year younger. Mozzie Smith, if there was anyone who has success for his Mozzie Smith, it was Chrsitian Haynes. He was great versus him. He fires off in the run game, getting movement on guys on base blocks. Combo blocks are a work of art, right? Whether it's from the initial part of just hand placement, hat placement, getting to that block, getting movement, and then working to the second level is beautiful, right? Like, he gets to the linebacker, he connects, and he finishes those blocks and doesn't allow them to slip off of him. I think he's a pretty solid athlete. He's not like some amazing athlete at the guard position, but if you're working to work zone blocks, he's got very flexible hips, right? Like, he's able to flip his hips, and he can even finish blocks after doing that. So we get Malik Nabers on day 1, and day 2 I get 2 offensive linemen and a safety who I think was best player available. All right, round 4, pick 108. I'm starting off day 3 with someone who I think can come in and compete for a starting job, despite the fact that the current starter there probably is more skilled, has better coverage ability. But I'm going Rutgers cornerback Max Melton. This is a competitive corner who played outside at Rutgers, but I think is a better fit in the nickel despite having the size for the outside. The first thing that pops off the tape is his physicality. Right? He's not afraid to press up and get physical with guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., Roman Wilson, or whoever that he lined up with, whether it's in man or zone coverage. And he does a good job staying connected, right? He's a good hip watcher, right? He's not getting caught up in the head fakes and all that stuff. He's a good hip watcher while keeping him connected to the wide receiver. But he doesn't have very great ball skills, so even though he can stay connected, he doesn't win at the catch point a lot, and that's the reason I think you'll move him into the nickel. The fact that he just doesn't have the recovery speed and can't live off of that on the outside. He can run with guys, but once someone beats him, his press or whatever, he's not really catching up or winning at the catch point. So I think slot is a better fit for him because it's quicker routes, less big body guys. Plus, he's a beast in the run game, and a nickel cornerback is such a huge part of the run game now. And those are the reasons why I think he can come in and compete with a starting job. Despite the fact that Flott's like a more talented, probably a better coverage player than Max Melton, I think he does all those other things well that Flott may struggle at. And in zone coverage, he's good. He's smart. He makes good instinctive plays, keeping good eyes on the QB. So starting off day 3 with a local kid, Max Melton. Round 5, pick 140. I'm going LSU defensive tackle Maason Smith. 6'5", 308 pounds, and long 35-inch arms. He's a big, strong defensive tackle that is begging to be coached up when you watch him, right? You see flashes of greatness in both the pass rush and the run game. And with those long arms, he's imposing. When he strikes and extends in the run game, he controls plays. When he can, stumbles into a good pass rush move with those arms, he can make an offensive lineman look silly. But he needs to get off the ball better. I think it could start with that, would help him a lot. He's not the most athletic guy, but he's not, this lumbering defensive tackle. But he needs to work his hands better, keep his pads low, right? When he's getting double teamed, it basically stops all momentum he has and the pads rise up. But with the Giants having defensive line coach Andre Patterson, I want him to work with this guy, Maason Smith, right? We saw, what Andre Patterson's been able to do for other defensive linemen, right? And you think of someone like Jordan Riley, whose film wasn't as very good last year, really nothing redeeming about it, and they admitted it, but they were able to coach him up, and, maybe they, have something in him. With Maason Smith, I see so much more potential, so I'd love to get Andre Patterson's hands on him. So I get the big, long defensive tackle at LSU, Maason Smith. Let's finish it off with the 6th round now, round 6 pick 185. The Giants don't have a 7th round pick because of the Isaiah Simmons trade. And I'm getting a running back, right? Like ideally, I'd like to ID a running back maybe in the 4th round if the Giants aren't going to keep Saquon Barkley. But I'm making this pick, thinking that Saquon Barkley may not be here. I'm going Washington running back Dillon Johnson, right? He had a lot of success for the Huskies on the way to their national championship. He's a big physical back. But the thing that really stands out when you watch him is his vision, right? He always makes the right read in zone, setting up blocks, making the right cuts. When they're running gap runs, he's always following the blocks the right way. If, an end spills in, he bounces it, right? But he's not looking to bounce. He kind of always makes the right reads in the games that I watch. He has some nice cuts that make guys miss, but you would like to see him use his lower body being more physical, right? Because he is a physical back, right? Big, he's 6'2", 215. I haven't got his combine weights in when I'm doing this, but it shows that he's big. But he falls forward, but he kind of drives through with his shoulders, right? Leads with his shoulders and falls through. I'd like him to, generate more power through his legs, so maybe you can break those tackles while also trying to fall forward. But get a back who can come in and compete with carry. So, in conclusion, the Giants, I got Malik Nabers, great playmaker in round 1. There wasn't a QB, from the top 3 guys there. Round 2, got a stud offensive lineman, Duke offensive tackle Graham Barton, who's going to slide inside, and then a playmaking safety in Cam Kinchens that I love. In the 3rd round, get my Senior Bowl crush and UConn guard Chrsitian Haynes. And then with day 3, local guy Max Melton in the 4th round out of Rutgers, coming to compete for nickel cornerback. And then finishing off with a raw defensive tackle, Maason Smith, and then Dillon Johnson, who can come in and compete with carries for whoever the Giants have at the running back position. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe to the channel, please. Asking you to do that again. And next mock draft will be, I think April 1st is the day. We usually, the first Monday of April. So looking forward to that one already. Appreciate you guys. See you on the next one. Until then, let's go Big Blue.